What's up guys, it's Lazarus here, back with another MLB video, and today, what we're going to be talking about is the best player on every team. Now this is another one of my yearly tradition videos. I think I've done it like the last 3 years, so we're doing it again. And of course I just want to preface everything by saying these are all my opinion, and I'm sure you guys are going to have different ones, so let me know yours in the comment section below. And since we got 30 teams and 30 guys to discuss, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to do this quick, rapid fire, and we're going to get right into it. Here we go. Starting things off with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I believe their best player is KETEL MARTE, who had a breakout year in 2019 where he went absolutely apeshit with a line of 329, 389, and 592, along with 32 home runs and a 6.9 WAR. I don't think anyone expected him to be that good, but he played like one of the best players in the whole league last year. And of course, Madison Bumgarner's a close second, but I think Marte slightly edges him out because Marte's on the rise, and Mad Bum might be on the decline. We don't know, but we'll see. But Marte is their best player for sure. The next team we're going to be talking about is the Atlanta Braves, and I believe their best player is FREDDIE, and it is a close race between him and Ronald Acuna Jr., but I'm going to give the slight edge to Freeman, who's been consistently great for like the last 7 years, but still somehow feels like he's flying under the radar. And he had another great year last year with a line of 295, 389, and 549 with 38 bombs and a WAR of 4.4. Even though he slowed down a little bit towards the end of the year due to injuries, the man is still a tank and still their best player. Now we're going to be moving on to the Baltimore Orioles, who don't have a lot going on for them right now. And their best player is going to be TREY Mancini, who basically wins by default at this point, even though he did have a really good year last year. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised soon if he gets traded to a contender, because Baltimore is not going to be good anytime soon. So for now, he's their best player, but who knows how long that's going to last. Now on to the Boston Red Sox. We would have had Mookie Betts in this spot, but they decided to trade him to the Dodgers. So instead, it's going to be Chris Sale, who for every year that wasn't 2019 has been absolutely nasty. But a combination of injuries and just general ineffectiveness led to a crappy year last season. But I don't have any doubt that he's going to bounce back stronger in 2020, even though there was that picture going around that made him look like an absolute twig. But that's kind of how he's always been. Although imagine how much better he could be if he put on some weight. Now that is scary. But yeah, he's their best player as of right now, and we'll see if that stays the same over the season. Alright, for the Chicago White Sox, we have one of their young players who really came into his own last year, and that's going to be Tim Anderson, the shortstop, who in 2019 had a line of 335, 357, and 508, along with 18 home runs and a WAR of 4.0. And it's hard to believe this guy has already been in the league for 4 years. He debuted in 2016, but now he's finally entering his prime, and 2019 should be the start of what looks to be a very solid stretch for this young player going into his age 27 season. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of 2019 Tim Anderson compared to the old one, which is why right now he's the White Sox best player. Now moving on to the other side of Chicago, we have the Cubs, and I believe their best player will be JAVIER BAEZ for a couple reasons. A, he's the cover boy of the show 20, so you know he's going to get a nice little boost from that. And B, I think he's surpassed Bryant as the best player on the team. Over the last 2 years, he's really come into his own and become one of the better players in all of baseball, and I think the best for him is yet to come. Now moving on to the Cincinnati Reds, we have EUGENIO SUAREZ, who is one of the most underrated players in the whole league, similarly to how Anthony Rendon is, or was rather, and he's been putting up great numbers at third base for years now, with 2019 being a particularly good one, where he hit 271, 358, 572, with 49 home runs and a WAR of 4.5. Yet this guy somehow still gets absolutely no attention, and it blows my mind. But as it is, I believe he's the best player on the Reds. Joey Votto struggled a little bit last year, so we'll see if he could bounce back. But right now, Suarez has the title. Next up, we're going to be moving on to the Colorado Rockies. And I think we all know who their best player is, NOLAN ARENADO, who is one of the best players in the entire league, never mind on just his team. And it looks like the rumors of him getting moved are starting to slow down a lot, so he'll be on the Rockies for the foreseeable future. And he also had another phenomenal year last year, which is why he's easily their best player. Now moving on to the Cleveland Indians, we have shortstop Francisco Lindor, who I think it's fair to say is the best shortstop in all of baseball right now, as he's been consistently great for about the last 3 years, and he's still only 26 years old somehow, even though he's already been in the league for like 4 years. absolutely ridiculous, but 2019 was another very solid year for him, and unfortunately he might not be on the Indians for too much longer, which is a shame because he's kind of a generational talent at this point. But as it stands right now, he's their best player, and he might even be the best player for whatever team he ends up on in the future. Oh man, the Detroit Tigers. You know, like the Baltimore Orioles, I think we can just come straight out and say they suck. There's not a lot of good players on this team, but Matthew Boyd did catch my eye. The left-handed pitcher, who on the surface didn't look like he had a great year, going 9-12 with a 4.56 ERA, and he also had a WAR of 3.5. So something went right for this guy, and it looks like he's going to be one of the few bright spots on this miserable rebuilding team. Maybe we'll see some of their guys take a step forward this year, but for now, Boyd is going to take the cake as their best player. Now we're going to be moving on to everybody's favorite team, the Houston Astros, and I think their best player is going to be Justin Verlander. He won the Cy Young last year. Now, as far as we know, he wasn't cheating, only the hitters were. But I guess that's irrelevant, you know. The MLB commissioner clearly doesn't care that much about the cheating, so why should we? For the Kansas City Royals, their best player is going to be WHIT Merrifield. Now, as a team, they're not looking to be too good for 2020, but they do have some decent young pieces that, if they put something together, we could see some very good improvements. But Merrifield pretty much is a staple of the team as it is right now. He had another good year last year in 2019. He's not a power hitter, but he is very damn consistent. And as of right now, he's the Royals' best piece. Alright, for the Los Angeles Angels, I think we all know it's Mike Trout. And I think we all know it's because he's Mike Trout. Not much needs to be said here. He's the GOAT, best player in baseball. No debate. That's it. For the other Los Angeles team, though, things are a little bit closer. I started typing up this video before they got Mookie Betts, but I still think their best player is Cody Bellinger. Even if he ever so slightly edges out Betts. Bellinger's 2019 was pretty much the equivalent of Mookie Betts' 2018, but it happened more recently, so I'm going to give that slight edge to Cody Bellinger, who, in case you guys don't remember, hit 305, 406, and 629 with 47 home runs and a WAR of 9. So basically, he went absolutely off, had one of the best seasons in recent memory from anybody, so that's why he gets a top spot on the LA Dodgers. Now we're going to switch things over to the Miami Marlins, who are also a rebuilding team, but they do have a few promising young players, particularly Brian Anderson, who I believe is their best player right now. He's not the best player, but he is pretty solid on a team going through their little youth movement, whatever you want to call it. And he had a good year in 2019, hitting 261, 342, and 468 with 20 home runs and a WAR of 3.8. Now he's not a superstar or anything, but the Marlins had a bunch of players like that, they'd be a lot better. Now we have the Milwaukee Brewers, another obvious pick here, and it's Christian Yelich, who over the last 2 years has become one of the absolute best players in all of baseball. And even though his 2019 year was shortened by some injuries, he only played about 130 games, he still had an absolutely phenomenal season, hitting a line of 329, 429, and 671 with 44 home runs and a WAR of 7.1. The transition he's made from a decent player to an absolute star has been absolutely ridiculous, and I hope he keeps it up because he's one of the most fun players to watch in all of baseball. Next up, we have the Minnesota Twins, and their best player is actually going to be a new face, third baseman Josh Donaldson, their big free agent move this offseason, who after a rough 2018 bounced back very nicely with Atlanta in 2019, hitting 259, 379, and 521 with 37 home runs and a WAR of 6.1. As if that Minnesota offense needed any more power in the lineup, now they get this guy. It's going to be fun to watch all year, and they're going to be absolutely lethal with the bats. Next up, we have everyone's favorite evil empire, the New York Yankees, who also made a huge splash in free agency, picking up Garrett Cole on his 9-year, $324 million deal, who was absolutely dominant in 2019, going 20-5 with a 2.50 ERA, a 185 ERA plus, 326 strikeouts, and a WAR of 6.8. Cole was absolutely ridiculous in 2019, and those stats are instantly making him the best player on his new team. Now we're going to be moving on to the other New York team, and their best player is a pitcher as well, one of the best pitchers in the whole National League, who's now won back-to-back Cy Young Awards, and as expected, his 2019 season was absolutely dirty, going 11-8 with a 2.43 ERA, 2.67 FIP, a 167 ERA plus, 255 strikeouts, and a 7.9 WAR. There's no debate here. He's the best player on the Mets, and he might even be the best pitcher in his whole league. Alright, so now we're going to be moving on to the Oakland Athletics, who have a lot of talent to go around, but their best player's got to be Matt Chapman, who's one of the best defenders in all of baseball, and a pretty good hitter as well, who in 2019 put up a total WAR of 6.7 with 36 home runs. So you combine that defense with that bat, and you have a recipe for the best player on Oakland. For the Phillies, we have kind of a controversial one. We're going to be going with JT Realmuto over Bryce Harper, and Realmuto is probably the best catcher in all of baseball. He's got the bat, he's got the speed, he's got the defense, and he had a solid 2019 to prove it, putting up a WAR of 4.4 compared to Bryce Harper's 4.3, so that's why I'm going to give him the slight edge for Philadelphia. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, they do not have that much going on for them right now, but one thing they do have is Josh Bell, who broke out in 2019, putting up a 2.9 WAR with 37 homers, and also making the All-Star team for the first time in his career, and hopefully we see him progress even more in 2020, and continue absolutely smacking the shit out of the ball. Now moving on to the Padres, we don't have Manny Machado, instead we have Kirby Yates, who sneakily had one of the best relief seasons we've ever seen, some notable stats being a 1.19 ERA, a 3.58 ERA plus, and 101 strikeouts in 60 innings pitched, along with finishing 9th in the Cy Young voting. You know, when you put up numbers like that, I don't think we could argue that he's the best player on his team right now, and he might not be that good in 2020, but goddamn, that is a disgusting year. So the San Francisco Giants are going through a pretty weird time right now. They're bad. Madison Bumgarner, who's been on them forever, has left to the Diamondbacks. Buster Posey's kind of washed up. But they do have this nice young player, Mike Yastrzemski, of course related to Carl, and he gave him a slither of hope in 2019, putting together a nice year with 21 bombs and a 2.8 WAR. And it's going to be interesting to see where the Giants go from here because they're kind of a mess, but they always manage to do some devil magic and figure their shit out. But right now, Yastrzemski's their best player, and he's pretty fun to watch too. Alright, I'm not even going to lie, Seattle's another rough one. But I do think Mitch Haniger's their best player, and I do think he has some great potential. If you remember his 2018 season, he was absolutely crazy. He couldn't repeat that in 2019 due to injuries, but if he stays healthy, I think he'll get back to that level he was at, and put together a really nice 2020, and show that he could still be a really good player, while the Mariners will just continue to do their thing. Now moving on to the St. Louis Cardinals, we have Jack Flaherty, who really showed himself to be an ace in 2019, going 11-8 with a 2.75 ERA, a 1.55 ERA plus, and putting up a total WAR of 6.0. And we all knew he was going to be pretty good, but he outdid himself, having an amazing season, so that's why he's going to be their best going into 2020 over guys like Goldschmidt and others. For the Tampa Bay Rays, their best player is going to be Charlie Morton, who at his advanced age is still really freaking nasty. He put together a great 2019, going 16-6 with a 3.05 ERA, a 1.46 ERA plus, and he still finished 3rd in Cy Young voting, behind the two Astros powerhouses. And I wasn't really expecting him to be this good still, but he's been phenomenal, and I see no reason why that's going to slow down going into 2020. Now for the Texas Rangers, this is an interesting one, because they're a team with a lot of potential, and they could make a run at it, and that's a lot in part because of this guy right here, Corey Kluber, who they traded for in the offseason, who was hurt in 2019, missed a lot of time, not performed very well. But if Corey Kluber could still pitch like the ace he was in Cleveland, then the Rangers got him for dirt cheap, and they have a solid team around him where they could potentially make a run at things, but it all depends on how healthy he is and how good he's feeling. But I still believe he's their best player right now. Whether that holds up as the season goes on, we'll see, but there's a lot of great potential there. Alright, now we're moving on to the Toronto Blue Jays, and their best player is also going to be a newcomer, HYUN-JIN Ryu, who had a better 2019 than I thought he did, going 14-5 with a 2.32 ERA and a 5.3 WAR, along with a 1.79 ERA plus. And I knew he was pretty good in 2019, but until I looked at his numbers, I didn't realize he was that good. So that's a big boost to a Blue Jays team that has a lot of young talent, and a lot more young talent that's going to be coming up throughout this year. And I'm not even going to lie, I could see them being competitive in 2020, and definitely in 2021. This team is going to be really good soon, so keep your eye on them for sure. And last, but certainly not least, we have the defending world champions, the Washington Nationals, and atop their roster, Max Scherzer, the one and only, absolute freak of a player, who had another great year in 2019, from pitching with a broken nose and a black eye in June, To starting Game 7 of the World Series and giving the Nats a chance to win it all for the first time in their history, Max Scherzer has been an absolute animal, and that's why he's at the top of the Nationals, and why I expect nothing to change from him in 2020 and beyond. Well guys, I know this is a long one, but it was fun to make and a lot to get through, so if you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe for more MLB content, and let me know in the comments below, who do you think is the best player on every team? Let's have a nice civilized discussion, see where we can go from there. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.